Left at the altar, she ran, and the Alpha King followed the scent of her pain. Inside the cathedral, nobles filled the long rows of seats. Silk gowns brushed marble floors. Gold crowns rested on proud heads. Banners of two kingdoms hung side by side, waiting to be joined forever. At the center stood Elowen of Asheville. She wore white, but it felt heavy, like armor she never asked for. Her hands trembled around a bouquet of winter roses. Her veil hid her face, yet everyone could sense something was wrong. She had been standing there too long. The priest cleared his throat again. The music had stopped. The doors behind her remained closed. Her betrothed had not come. At first, Elowen told herself it was delay, a mistake, a broken strap or a late messenger. Kings were busy men. Princes arrived late all the time, but time stretched. Whispers began to move through the hall like snakes. She waits alone. Is this some cruel test? Did he change his mind? Elowen's heart beat so loudly she thought others could hear it. She stared at the altar candles, watching the flames shake. Her thoughts spun, trying to stay calm. Then the truth arrived, not with words but with silence. The great doors never opened. A royal advisor finally stepped forward. He did not meet her eyes. His voice was low, careful, and sharp like a blade wrapped in cloth. The union has been withdrawn. The words fell like stones. Withdrawn, not delayed, not canceled. Withdrawn as if she were portrayed. The reason came next, spoken softly but cruelly. A new alliance, a stronger crown, a better offer. Elowen felt the world tilt. Her chest tightened. Her breath caught. Heat rushed to her face, then drained away, leaving her cold. She looked around and saw pity, curiosity, and satisfaction reflected back at her. No one stepped forward to defend her. She understood then. This was not an accident. This was a decision. Her shame was part of the bargain. Before tears could fall, before anyone could see her break, Elowen turned. She lifted her skirts and ran. Gasps followed her. The bells kept ringing. The sound chased her through the long halls, down the marble steps, and into the open air of the city. She did not stop. She ran past fountains, past guards calling her name, past people who stared as the abandoned bride fled her own wedding. At the city gates, no one tried to stop her. Perhaps they thought she would come back. She did not. Elowen ran into the forest. The blackwood was old, older than crowns, older than kingdoms. Trees rose high and thick, their branches woven together like secrets. The light dimmed as she moved deeper, and the sounds of the city faded away. Her breath came hard. Her legs burned. Tears blurred her vision now, hot and unstoppable. She did not care where she went. She only knew she could not stay. Her heart hurt in a way she had no words for. It was not just love lost. It was dignity stolen, a future erased in front of witnesses. When her strength failed, she stumbled to the edge of a narrow river. The water was dark and slow, reflecting the gray sky. Elowen fell to her knees. Her bouquet slipped from her hands and floated away, white petals breaking apart in the current. She pressed her palm to her chest as a quiet sound escaped her, half sob, half breath. She did not scream. She did not curse. She simply broke. Pain poured out of her, raw and unguarded, soaking into the earth. And the world noticed. Far to the north, beyond the borders of polite kingdoms, stood the stone fortress of Dravenmore. There, a man paused mid-step. Cale Dravenmore, Alpha King of the Northern Realms, stood on a cliff overlooking a frozen valley. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark armor carved with ancient marks. Wind pulled at his black cloak. His crown rested heavy on his head. He was feared across the land. They said he ruled beasts and men alike. They said his blood carried an old curse. They said love followed him only to die. Cale had learned to listen to silence more than words. Now the silence shifted. He closed his eyes. The air carried something strange. Not fear, not anger. Pain, deep, fresh, unhidden. His jaw tightened. He breathed in again, slow and sharp. The scent reached him clearly now, not of flesh or fire, but of sorrow sharp enough to cut. A human sorrow, a wounded bond. Kale opened his eyes, gold flickering in their depths. "That is not possible," he muttered. Yet his body already knew the truth. Somewhere far south, a woman had been broken and the echo had reached him, against reason, against law, against every rule he had built to survive. Kale turned away from the valley. "Prepare my horse," he commanded. The guards stared. "My king, the council, now." His voice allowed no argument. As Kale rode south, the curse within him stirred, restless and awake. Back in the Blackwood, night crept in. Aloan sat by the river, her veil cast aside, her face pale and streaked with tears. The forest had grown quiet, too quiet. She hugged her arms around herself, trying to stay warm. Fear whispered at the edge of her thoughts, but she pushed it down. Fear felt small compared to what she had already lost. Then she felt it, a presence. The air shifted, the hairs on her arms lifted. She was no longer alone. Aloan slowly raised her head. Across the river, between the trees, stood a figure, tall, still, watching. Golden eyes caught the faint light. Her heart jumped. She staggered back, nearly slipping into the water. "Who's there?" she called, her voice shaking. The figure did not move. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Then, in a deep, calm voice, he spoke. "You are far from where you were meant to stand today." Aloan swallowed hard. "I don't belong anywhere." The man stepped forward into the dim light. His presence was heavy, powerful, like a storm waiting to break. She knew then, this was no ordinary man. And as his gaze settled on her, unafraid, searching, knowing, Aloan realized her flight had not ended. It had only just begun. Aloan stood at the river's edge, her heart beating fast as the tall stranger stepped closer. He moved with calm control, like someone who did not fear shadows because he belonged among them. She tightened her grip on the damp fabric of her dress. "Stay where you are," she said, though her voice lacked strength. The man stopped. His golden eyes rested on her, not sharp, not cruel, but heavy with something older than judgment. "I will not harm you," he said. She did not believe him, yet strangely she did not run. "You followed me," Aloan said. "Yes." "Why?" His gaze did not waver. "Because your pain crossed borders," she frowned. "Pain does not travel." "In this world," he replied, "it does." Silence stretched between them. The river moved slowly, carrying broken petals away. Aloan felt exposed, as if the forest itself had stripped her walls bare. "You should go back," she said at last. "There is nothing behind you," he answered. The truth of that struck harder than any insult. She lifted her chin. "Who are you?" For the first time, something unreadable crossed his face. "Kale Dravenmore," he said, "King of the North." Her breath caught. Everyone knew that name. The Alpha King, the cursed ruler, the man said to command both crown and beast. Aloan stepped back, fear finally finding shape. "A king," she whispered. "Then you have no reason to stand here with me." Kale looked at her carefully. "And yet I do," she laughed softly, broken. "I was left today at the altar in front of two kingdoms. I am worth nothing now." "You are wrong," Kale said. She looked at him sharply. "You do not smell of nothing," he continued. "You smell of strength buried under grief." Her hands shook. She hated that he could see her so clearly. "I will not kneel," she said. "Not to a king, not to anyone." Something like approval flickered in his eyes. "Good," Kale said. "I do not want a woman who kneels." The words settled between them, heavy and dangerous. The forest wind shifted. Kale glanced around, alert. "You are not safe here," he said. "This land remembers sorrow, it feeds on it." Aloan wrapped her arms around herself. "I have nowhere else." Kale hesitated. His jaw tightened as if he were fighting something inside himself. "Come with me," he said finally. "I will protect you." "At what cost?" she asked. He met her gaze fully now. "You will be under my rule." Her heart twisted. "I will not be owned." "You will not be owned," he said, "but you will not be free either." The honesty frightened her more than lies would have. Before she could answer, the forest changed. A sharp sound cut through the quiet. Kale turned, placing himself between Aloan and the trees. "Stay behind me," he ordered. Figures moved through the shadows, dark shapes, quiet, trained. Aloan's fear surged. Who are they? She whispered. Men who do not care if you live, Kale said calmly. Steel flashed. Kale moved like a storm released. His strength was terrifying, controlled but immense. He did not rage. He did not shout. He simply ended the threat with precise, powerful movements. Eloin watched, frozen, her heart pounding. When it was over, the forest fell silent again. Kale turned back to her. His breathing was steady, but something wild flickered behind his eyes. Now you see, he said, why you cannot stay. Eloin swallowed. They were sent for me. Yes. By who? Kale hesitated. By those who fear what you might become. Her confusion deepened. I am nothing. He stepped closer. You survived today, that already makes you dangerous. She laughed bitterly. I survived humiliation. You survived being broken, Kale said. There is a difference. For a long moment she looked at him. Then slowly she nodded. Fine, she said. I will come, but I will not be silent. A corner of his mouth lifted. I would expect nothing less. They traveled north. Kale gave her a horse in space. He did not touch her. He did not ask questions. Yet his presence was always near, steady and watchful. At night they sat by firelight. Eloin felt the weight of unspoken words pressing between them. You smell different now, Kale said once. She stiffened. Different how? Less shattered, he replied. Still hurting, but standing. She stared into the fire. Pain does not leave. It only changes shape. Kale said nothing, but his eyes darkened. She sensed then that he carried pain far older than hers. One night she asked quietly, Why are you alone? His expression closed. Because I destroy what I claim, he said. The words chilled her. Is that why you followed me? She asked. Because you wanted to claim me? Kale looked at her sharply. No. Then why? Because, he said slowly, you ran instead of breaking completely. Their eyes met. Something dangerous passed between them, recognition, longing, fear. Kale stood abruptly. We rest, we move at dawn. But Eloin could not sleep. She realized something terrifying. She felt safest beside the man she should fear most. As they neared the northern borders, the air grew colder. Mountains rose like sleeping giants. Eloin watched Kale as he rode ahead, his posture heavy with duty, his silence full of restraint. You push me away, she said suddenly. He did not turn. I am protecting you. From what? From me. She urged her horse forward until she rode beside him. I was already destroyed once, she said softly. I will not be protected by distance. Kale slowed. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and for a moment the king was gone. Only the man remained. That is exactly why I must keep distance, he said. If I lose control. A horn sounded in the distance. Kale's body went rigid. Down, he commanded. Arrows cut through the air. Kale shielded Eloin as chaos erupted around them. This attack was larger, organized, a trap. Kale fought fiercely, his power breaking through restraint. The ground seemed to tremble beneath him. Eloin saw it then, the beast beneath the crown, and she saw his fear of it. As enemies closed in, Kale turned to her, blood on his armor, his eyes glowing dangerously. Run, he ordered. Do not look back. She shook her head. I will not leave you. His voice cracked. If I lose myself, I will hurt you. Then don't lose yourself, she said. Their eyes locked. For one breath, one fragile moment, Kale chose her voice over the darkness inside him. He turned back to the fight, controlled, focused, holding the beast at bay. When silence finally returned, Kale dropped to one knee. Eloin rushed to him. You stayed, he said quietly. Yes, she answered. I stayed. Black stone walls stretched high into the gray sky. Towers stood sharp and watchful. Snow gathered in the cracks of ancient steps, untouched by warmth or welcome. Eloin stared as they approached. This is your home, she asked softly. Kale nodded. This is where power lives, not comfort. The guards bowed as the gates opened. Their eyes followed Eloin with open curiosity. She felt their questions without hearing a word. Who is she? Why is she here? Why does the Alpha King protect her? Kale dismounted and helped her down. His touch was brief, careful, like he feared lingering. Inside, the halls were cold and vast. Torches burned low. Shadows clung to stone pillars carved with symbols older than memory. Elowen felt small but not weak. She lifted her chin. The Northern Council waited in the great hall. Men and women dressed in dark robes sat upon raised seats. Their faces were sharp with control and calculation. When Kale entered, they stood, not in respect but in caution. "You return without warning," said Lord Varin, his voice smooth and dangerous. "And with unexpected company." Kale's gaze hardened. "This is Elowen of Asheville. She is under my protection." A murmur spread. "A southern bride," another counselor said, "abandoned if rumors speak true." Elowen felt heat rise in her chest, but before she could speak, Kale's voice cut through the hall. "Choose your words carefully." Silence fell. Lord Varin leaned back. "Protection is a strong claim, my king, especially for someone tied to broken alliances." Elowen finally spoke. "I am not broken." Several eyes turned to her, surprised. "I was left," she continued calmly, "not erased." Kale glanced at her, something unreadable passing across his face. The council dismissed them soon after, but tension lingered like frost. As they walked away, Elowen whispered, "They don't want me here." "They do not want anything they cannot control," Kale replied. Days passed. Elowen was given a chamber overlooking the frozen valley. It was quiet, lonely, and safe, but it felt like a cage. Kale grew distant. He was busy with council meetings, patrols, and whispered arguments behind closed doors. When he returned, his shoulders were heavy with unseen weight. Elowen watched him change. He spoke less, smiled never. His eyes darkened. One evening she confronted him in the training yard where snow fell like ash. "You are pushing me away," she said. Kale did not stop sharpening his blade. "You should be grateful." "For silence?" she asked. "For being hidden like a secret." "You are alive," he said sharply. "That is enough." Her heart clenched. "I did not come here to disappear." He finally looked at her. "You came here because you had nowhere else." "That does not mean I stop being human." His jaw tightened. "You are human, that is the problem." The words struck deeper than he meant. Elowen stepped back. "I will not be punished for existing." Kale exhaled slowly. "You do not understand what you stand near." "Then explain," she said. He turned away. "I cannot." That night Elowen dreamed. She stood in a circle of fire, a crown of light hovering above her head. Chains wrapped around her wrists, glowing with ancient runes. Somewhere Kale called her name, but every step toward him shattered the ground beneath her feet. She woke with a gasp. Her hands burned. She looked down. Faint light flickered beneath her skin. Magic. She staggered back, heart racing. The next morning, before she could speak to Kale, guards came for her. The council chamber was cold. Lord Varin stood, his eyes sharp with triumph. "The prophecy stirs," he said. "The abandoned bride, the king who cannot love, the power that breaks curses or kingdoms." Elowen felt sick. "You used me," she said. "You were always part of this," he replied. "Your humiliation awakened what was dormant." Kale burst into the chamber. "Enough." Lord Varin smiled. "You feel it too, don't you? Her power pulls at your curse." Kale's hands curled into fists. "She leaves," Varin continued, "for her safety and yours." Elowen looked at Kale. He did not argue. Her heart broke all over again. They stood on the battlements at dusk. The wind howled between them. "You're sending me away," Elowen said quietly. "Yes." "Because you're afraid," she whispered. Kale closed his eyes. "Because I care." The admission stunned her. "You think leaving will save me?" she asked. "I know staying will doom you." Tears burned her eyes, but she did not let them fall. "I was left once because I was inconvenient," she said. "Do not do the same." Kale turned to her, pain clear on his face. "If I choose you," he said, "I lose control. I lose the kingdom. I lose you anyway." "Or," she said softly, "you lose the crown and keep your soul." The words hung between them, dangerous and true. Kale stepped closer, then stopped himself. At dawn, Elowen was to leave. That night the castle bells rang, not for warning, for execution. Elowen was dragged from her chamber, accused of treason and forbidden magic. Kale arrived too late. She stood in chains of glowing runes, calm despite the fear in her eyes. "I am not your weapon," she told the council. "I am your mirror." Kale's roar shook the hall. "Touch her," he warned, "and I burn this throne to the ground." Lord Varin raised his hand. "Then choose," he said, "her life or your crown." Kale looked at Aloan. She met his gaze, steady and unafraid. "Do not choose me out of fear," she said. "Choose what you believe in." The chains began to tighten. Kale stepped forward, and the curse inside him awakened fully. The glowing chains around Aloan's wrists burned brighter, filling the chamber with sharp white light. The council stepped back, fear finally breaking through their calm masks. Kale stood at the center of it all. His breath came heavy. His hands trembled, not with weakness but with restraint pushed to its edge. The curse inside him surged like a storm, old and furious, demanding release. "Choose," Lord Varin repeated, though his voice no longer sounded confident. "The girl or the crown?" Kale looked at Aloan. She stood tall despite the chains, her face pale but calm. Her eyes met his, steady and clear. "Do not save me by becoming what you hate," she said softly. "End this the right way." Her words reached him deeper than any command. Kale understood then. The curse was not born from love. It was born from fear of loss. He had ruled by control, believing strength meant distance. The crown had taught him that kings could not choose their hearts. He was wrong. Kale reached up and removed the crown from his head. The sound it made as it hit the stone floor echoed like thunder. Gasps filled the hall. "I am done ruling through fear," Kale said. His voice was calm, final. "I choose her, and I choose to end this." The runes on Aloan's chains flickered. Lord Varin shouted, "You doom us all." "No," Aloan said. Her voice rang clear. "You doomed yourselves when you tried to control fate." The light around her hands spread, warm, steady, alive. The magic did not burn, it healed. The chains shattered into dust. A wave of power rolled through the hall, not violent but cleansing. Cracks split the ancient curse marks carved into the walls. Shadows peeled away like smoke. Kale fell to one knee, gasping as the weight inside his chest lifted. For the first time in his life, the curse loosened its grip. Aloan rushed to him, catching him before he fell. "You stayed," he whispered. "So did you," she answered. The council was dissolved by dawn. Those who had ruled through secrets and fear were stripped of power. Dravenmore stood leaderless, but not broken. Kale did not reclaim the throne. Instead, he stepped away from it. "I will not be king," he told the gathered people in the courtyard. "Not until this land learns to stand without chains." Murmurs spread, mixed with fear and hope. Aloan stood beside him, no longer hidden, no longer silent. "She is not my weakness," Kale continued. "She is the reason I chose to change." Some bowed, some did not, but no one challenged them. In the days that followed, the castle felt different, lighter. Aloan explored its halls without guards. The frozen wind no longer felt cruel. The land itself seemed to breathe easier. Her magic remained, but it no longer frightened her. One evening she stood on the same battlements where Kale once sent her away. He joined her quietly. "You could leave," he said. "No crown binds you now." She looked at him. "So could you?" He nodded. "Yes." They stood in silence, watching the sky turn gold and gray. "What happens next?" Aloan asked. Kale thought for a long moment. "I learn who I am without power," he said, "and you decide who you want to be without loss." She smiled faintly. "I already know." She reached for his hand. He did not pull away. Far away, news spread. The Alpha King had laid down his crown. The abandoned bride had risen, not through marriage but through choice. The curse that ruled the North was broken not by war but by surrender. Some called it foolish. Others called it legend, but the land remembered. Months later, spring touched the mountains. Snow melted into rivers. New growth broke through stone. Aloan walked through the valley, her steps steady, her heart no longer heavy with shame. She was no longer the girl left at the altar. She was a woman who had been broken and chose to rise. Kale walked beside her, no longer feared as a monster, no longer hiding from himself. "You changed everything," he said. "So did you," she replied. They stopped where the river curved, sunlight dancing on the water. "No crowns," Eloin said. "No chains," Kale agreed. They stood together, not bound by fate but by choice, not ruled by pain but shaped by it. And in a world once built on power and fear, something rare was born, a future chosen freely.